Working hard on my stump, what's the problem? I ain't had shit to show, being modest. Now it's grams of the wax for my conscience. Brian James in LA, you're on college. I've been jumping on them planes like a hobby. Still moving with the pack like my partners. Just a John on them jets cause we wildin'. But the bowl is a party on the island, moment of silence. So good, get back to the topic. Grew up, it was me and Flocka. Grandma's and Big T, this my mama. I ain't even for the pain when my pots flip. Knew his name, that's it, never bothered. Mom said, you the man, son, you got this. Ever since I found a way to go and pop shit. Hold up, blaze through a whole zip. Took a seat at the table of my first flip. Days in red roof with my first whip. Split the money with the gang, never post pics. Seen a change in the game, had to coach it. Never let them take my wangs in the mold, bitch. Ever made in a month, nigga. Used to serve him at the minute, just the front, nigga. Goddamn. Had to grow up quick, I made my own rules. Had my first child, got it jumping with music. Can't really hang with nobody who losing. I thought by now that you would go and get it, but I could hardly see niggas this distant. Know you get cropped if you not in the picture. And I made that tag and went got a bag. Shots to the Henny and OG prescriptions, put rebel shit on the map. Took a leap from where I started at. Started ballin' now on Chris Paul and Cats. Got him steady calling for the mold, but I'm on a roll, gotta call him back. And that's all fact.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. All carry-on items should now be stowed securely, either in an overhead bin or under the seat in front of you. All aisles, exits, and bulkhead areas should now be clear. All electronic devices should now be turned off and stowed, as they may interfere with the aircraft's navigational and communication systems. Once airborne, we'll let you know when you may use approved electronic devices, but note that some items may not be used at any time during the flight. You'll find a list of approved devices in the in-flight information section.
May I have your attention for a very special public service announcement? We are taking over the internet. That's right, gang. The United States champion of word wrestling entertainment has returned for another edition of the Pocket Locker Podcast. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast, and you should already know by now, folks, I am in airplane mode, and I am joined by some very, very special guests this evening. First up, we have the lovely Bumblebee. Switch that up. Woo, yay.
There we go.
And then, of course, your friend, my friend, the lovely and talented and oh so winning. You want to talk about a bitch that hates to lose? Give it up for Stephanie Hill.
I do hate to lose. I hate to fucking lose. Losing is for losers. You know, it's
in the name.
I'm having a really remarkably good season. It's probably, golly. It's one of the best, and
it's been a good summer.
It's been a good summer, and our teams have been tremendous. Just
going fast. All right, gang, let's go ahead and we
smart.
Let's jump into the musical portion of the program. This one is a request from Bre, one of our co-hosts. Boom, let's get it.
Hi everyone. This next song is called
New Cover.
Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor. Hope you like it.
It's good to see everybody. Hey, Tsunami.
Y'all know who wrote this?
7 hours and 15 days.
Sinead O'Connor, I think.
Since you took your love.
Oh, didn't write it. Oh, I saw him do a cover. I didn't know he wrote it though. I thought he was covering it.
I go out every night and sleep all day. whatever I want. I can see whomever I choose. I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant, but nothing can take away these blues, 'cause nothing compares to you. It's been so lonely without you here, like a bird without a song.
Hey, Joel.
Nothing can stop these lonely tears from falling. Tell me, baby, where did I go wrong? I can put my arms around every boy I see, but they'd only remind me of you. I went to the doctor and guess what he told me? Guess what he told me? He said, girl, you better try to have fun no matter what you do, 'cause he's a fool, 'cause nothing compares to you. Nothing compares to you. All the flowers that you planted, mother, in the backyard, all died when you went away. I know that living with you, baby, was sometimes hard, but I'm willing to give it another try. 'Cause nothing compares to you. Nothing compares to you. Nothing compares to you.
All right, gang, before we get into our next one, I've got one more panelist for you. Give it up for the lovely Lena. Hell yeah, welcome to the program. All right, gang, now we can get into our final musical number before we get into this fucked up ass show. Uh-oh, where'd Lena go?
I used to rule the world.
Got vaporized.
When I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone. Sweep the streets I used to own.
There's a slide.
Roll the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes. Listen dead. Long live the king. 1 minute I held the key. Next the walls closed on me, and I discovered my castle stand upon the pillars of salt and pillars of sand. I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain. Once you go, there
Cheers,
was
gang.
never an honest word. But that was when I ruled the world. When I ruled the world. Duke, it was a wicked and wild wind blew down the doors to let me in. Shattered windows and the sound of drums. People couldn't believe what I'd become. Revolutionaries wait for my head on a silver plate, just a puppet on a lonely string. Who would ever want to begin? I feel Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter won't call my name, never an honest word.
Say that Coldplay song.
That was when I ruled the world.
Maybe their best. Oh, nice, Crystal.
Hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my Lord and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter will call my name, never an honest word. But that's when I ruled the world.
Nice, nice, nice. All right, gang. As I like to remind people, being the United States champion of Word Wrestling Entertainment, it's not just about getting all the girls and carrying around 10 pounds of gold that makes it really fucking hard to get through fucking airport security. Champions have championship responsibilities. And finally, Fuckface Doug finally got through on the transatlantic call-in show. And it did not take long for shit to go south. And so I just had to pull a audible, grab an emergency fucking meeting of the fucking masterminds, call in the brain trust, put together a quick panel, and here we are, and we are going to respond to Fuckface Doug's call. All right, before we get to that, does anybody want to just cue this up? Steph, you are a mod at the Transatlantic Call-In Show. You can actually give us the whole, fill people in on how we got, how do we get here?
First of all, the Transatlantic Call-In Show is the best program on the line on Jimmy Snow's fine efforts. Lots and lots of shows over there. There's content Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Mondays are Skep Talk, and Tuesdays are Dying Out Loud, and Wednesdays are Matt and Matt Dillahunty and guests, and Thursdays is TACA's Transatlantic Calling Program. Golly, it keeps growing and growing. It's a wonderful place, and I urge you to, it's a little different. It's like these folks are trying to actually produce good content and maybe get a little bit of support and some spare coin out of it. So
Yeah.
if you enjoy that sort of stuff, and of course on Sundays there's the Sunday show with Jimmy himself, the man himself, and Matt usually. So check out the line, check out the programs, and I don't want to be poaching on all of this stuff, but Doug has been banging on the door of TACAS for at least 6 weeks. And I've run across him, maybe even as long as 8 weeks, maybe a couple of months. I've run across him a couple of times, and because he's fond of name checking me, it might not be any longer, but in any event, I've run across Doug, and I ran across him probably a month ago on TACAS, and it's like, hey, will you take my call? The guy's just going on. I was like, well, I'll have to wait in the queue. It's like, yeah, like every other human being on the fucking planet. It's got to wait in the queue. It's like, yeah, I call in, I wait in the queue. I sort of sit there, I listen. They don't put you on hold with the elevator music. You can actually listen to the show, but you got to wait because other people, believe it or not, in this world want to talk to the host, Katie or Ben, or when I'm on there, which infrequently, but sometimes. They just sort of want, it's like the other people have thoughts, questions, opinions that they want to share. And Doug, I know that you only want to ask questions. Lots of other people do too. So you can wait and hit your big boy pants up.
See, that's what happens when you
today he did, which was a wonderful thing, and it's a good thing he did because I think it was as Ben and Arden said, it was a fairly productive conversation for a while until of course the elephant and the other elephant. And wait a minute, the little tiny baby elephant came into the room. At which point it went pear-shaped. But hey, that's the way it goes.
So there's this, like what you're saying about him thinking he needed a special spot in line. There's just this level of entitlement that these men have. I just don't get. And I've lived the life as a white man before, and I still don't get that sense of entitlement that just exudes from these men when they think they have the right opinion.
Well, I guess he thinks he's a big YouTube star, so
Oh.
And
He is. He's cute.
Oh man. All right, so you got.
He's just a hero in a long line of heroes, waiting for somebody's billboard to graze. They say he's sprung from the skull of Athena. Think about your own head and the headache he gave.
Beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. She can sing too. Steph is multi-talented, y'all. Just
that credit Liz Fair for that soap star Joe. In other words, soap star Doug, I guess.
All right, are you guys ready to jump into this thing?
Yep. Here's Doug.
Here's Doug.
We are going to take a caller in a second who I've been seeing in the chat who's been annoying the living shit out of me. But,
I know here.
It might be a productive call. The stated topic is potentially a point of understanding and agreement. So we're going to try it. We're going to bring in Doug, Pine Creek. Doug, you are live on the line. What do you got for us? Hello. Man, are you there? Did you hit?
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear.
Gang, y'all should have seen me in the chat. I was like, well, all right, next caller. I was already done. I was like, well, we tried it.
Oh, sorry,
he's
I
trying
had
to-
my
he's trying to set up his thing.
Maybe next time.
my amateur rookie mistake.
No worries.
But first of all, I honestly don't want to cause any trouble here. I'm getting the impression that I'm being viewed as a troublemaker, and I don't want that. I mean, for me, there's only two real issues to talk about, and that is the sports thing, but that's been done to death. It's the transitioning of minors, and I think we're all agreed that that's probably the most important issue. So I was wondering if we could find points of agreement that, number one, it is a very serious, important issue. Are we all agreed on that?
Absolutely.
I agree to that. Yep.
Is the right term concern trolling or whatever here, right? Because in the great wide world of trans people to just call into a show and say I'm primarily concerned about the children, and then there's those women in sports, and it's like just is I don't know what to call that, but
This is, I call it the wokey doke. This is Doug. This is Doug, basically saying, sure, we're all rational, reasonable people here. I'm sure we can come to an understanding, and of course, it's out of charity, sure. And I think he was genuinely surprised at the level of agreement that both Arden and Ben displayed, because of course, who's going to say that that matters of such import to a human's life are important?
right.
Who's going to? But it's a question of where does the concern of the community at large necessarily impinge upon the rights of the individuals directly affected, which we'll see as the conversation develops.
Yeah, I'll let it go. It just bothered me that for me, he tried to softball it, but at the same time, he's just coming off the top with the hot button issue.
No, it's the just ask. It's the just asking questions gambit.
Yeah.
Which is fine to a point, but when the just asking questions is, I'm asking questions to frame a line of argument, which is why the "don't you agree" comes in. Doug is a salesman. I mean, what you're trying to do is overcome objections in any sales conversation, any sales.
Right.
You're going to hear the same sort of thing. So it's the "don't you agree? Don't you agree? How are we in agreement? Don't you agree?" And eventually, at the end of the sales call, you're agreeing to buy a purple unicorn from a magic sky man who happens to have a whole stable of them.
Yeah. Perfect.
And Doug's an atheist, but it's the same fucking technique.
It is. Good point.
Well, we're gonna hear it here, so. Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
I think no matter what side you're on, we can agree that we should try to avoid mistakes and be very cautious. Are we agreed with that?
Yeah, I think these are softballs. Hit
Yes.
us with what's really going on.
I think it depends
Okay.
on as well as your definition of caution and where we're going with that.
Okay. So now, this is a legitimate question. I don't know the answer to this, but what is the process for, let's say, a 14, 15-year-old wants to transition surgically? What does that process look like? How do they decide?
Acknowledge that he already knows the answer to this question, or at least he's been told the answer plenty of times.
Yeah.
And he's been told the wrong answer. And Ben gives him the correct answer.
But yeah, I did actually mention that too when I was listening and chatting, was that that is Doug's technique. He always brings up things that he's been explained repeatedly on air on his own channel. So yeah, that's a great point.
Well, he said 15-year-old, and he says surgically. He's just loading. Loading the barrel. That's not a thing that's happening anywhere in any great number. There's more cis children that are getting those surgeries at that age than there are trans children. But whatever. No.
And just like I feel,
he's talking specifically about genital reconstructive surgery, which is not performed except in extremely rare very rare circumstances. Like I know of one, except in extremely rare and extremely grave circumstances. I don't know.
So
how
Stephanie, just to
graphic you wanna get.
clarify,
I don't know how
for
graphic.
the audience. What percentage could we say of trans affirming care involves surgery?
For minors?
Well, actually,
or
to
just
be
in
honest,
general.
for minors or in general, actually, general reconstructive surgery is expensive, not always covered. Not everyone is in a position to do that. It even for adults, it requires the affirmation from two practicing professionals, one of whom has to be a psychiatrist, in other words, a medical doctor, for a surgeon to even contemplate operating. So it is not a walk in the fucking park, and it costs money, and it's not always covered. So and also some trans people don't want it. That's fine too.
Right.
I don't know to answer.
I just looked it up real quick.
To answer your question precisely, Lena, I don't know how many trans people have genital reconstructive surgery, but I don't know as it's even the majority of people that transition.
I just did a quick Google search, and the top answer is given about 4 to 13%. So, and that's among trans men and women.
I think that's probably true. I do know that the number of genital reconstructive surgery in 2020 for both trans men and trans women is a number of 2,300 and I believe 13, according to the American Society of Plastic Surgeons.
Right. And
in the United States.
And this is the problem you pointed out with the Stephen Woodford video, which is just in that little point where he picks out and, the right's ignoring this, but the left's ignoring these robots cranking out these gender reassignment surgeries. Doug is on that same thing where, so what about that 14-year-old who goes through, bottom surgery?
Would never even be offered.
And it's
unless
just like,
that
come on,
14-year-old. Here's the circumstances under which someone under the age of 18 would be considered for genital reconstructive surgery. They have done something to their genitals. It happens. In which case, genital reconstructive surgery is necessary.
Yeah, now see, like I was going to say...
No, it depends on how you reconstruct those genitals, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You restore them to their original configuration, or you modify them to so that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
that's the only circumstance that I can imagine for anyone, and in that case, you are going to have medical professionals evaluating that patient, because still, for any surgery to be performed, you are going to need to have 2 letters.
That's amazing. Great point, Steph. And like I said, just like he did with Arden and student Dr. Ben, Doug fucked around and he found out because they were fucking ready today. And I've seen him interact with Lena. I've seen him interact with Steph. And I can only imagine the same thing with Bre. Come around here, you're going to fuck around and find out too. And that was an amazing point, Steph, because we're not
I like
thinking
how they called
about
out his softballs right away. They're like, no,
right
no,
away.
I want to address a comment that I'm seeing from Paleologos. Ben expertly addresses that concern, and so does Arden as we go on through the thing. And I have talked altogether too much. These two can, Doug's questions, these two people's interactions can speak volumes a lot more than I can.
Sure. Let's roll the tape. Appreciate you guys.
So it's very, very rare to get surgery at that age.
What's up, Cam?
So first of all,
I agree.
especially genital surgery is not done under age 18. So that's completely off the table until they reach an age of consent. Are you specifically only wanting to talk about the surgical transition, or do you want to discuss like the whole process of like if someone comes out and then
I'm totally for the what do you call it, the counseling and that sort of thing. I think for most people in the United States, it's surgery and to a lesser degree the hormones.
Well, no, actually, no. Surgery is not the primary thing that's done. So let me talk to you a little bit about the timeline of like if someone is to come out as trans. So there's kind of a stepwise process, and it's especially for minors is done very carefully. So the first thing that's going to happen is social transition and therapy. So basically, like we're trying very hard to do the minimal amount needed for people to relieve their symptoms, right? So especially in young people who don't necessarily meet the age of consent, I agree that we want to be cautious, but we don't jump straight to surgery. And in fact, a lot of people don't get surgery. A lot of people don't want surgery. And most people do not get surgery until they are at an age of consent, which is over 18. So what's going to happen is a person's going to come out, possibly to their family, to their friends, as trans. And if they decide that they want to undergo transition, the first step is social transition. So we're talking things like changing your hair, changing a name that you want to go by, changing your pronouns, like changing the way that you dress, things like that are all reversible, right? Because even if you change your name, you can change your name back. Like that's not an issue. So let's say we have somebody that starts socially transitioning and they really enjoy how they feel on that. And we get them in to see a therapist and they're talking about who they are. They're learning about things in their lives, like what they don't like about themselves. And like they can tease out a lot of other things going on too. So they got somebody to talk to. They got somebody to process all this with in an evidence-based manner. And then it usually takes like the steps to go to a medical transition. Like there's a lot of barriers needed to even begin that stage. So especially for minors, you still need to have pretty convincing documentation that says, yes, your symptoms are bad enough to where you need medical intervention. So the informed consent model does not exist for children. And when we're talking about medical transition for minors, we are talking very high risk children. So this is different than like a lot of people are saying that you can just say, I feel like I want to transition today and then be whisked off for hormones, puberty blockers, and surgery. That's not what's going to happen. These are our kids whose gender dysphoria is so severe that we are talking about kids in front of you that it's like, if they do not get this intervention for medical therapy, we are looking at pretty significant psychological distress and like risk of self-harm and suicidality and things. So we're not talking about low risk kids because they can wait a lot of the time and they will go through a lot of barriers. Like if someone just says, I feel like I want to transition, they have even more barriers to go through because they have to clearly document that this is what is going to be the best course of action for them. But most of this comes down to, like, you have a kid sitting in front of you who's maybe ages 14, 15, who has significant risk of self-harm. Like, they've probably been hospitalized more than once. Like, most of the trans kids that I've seen have been hospitalized more than once for psychological conditions and related to their gender dysphoria. Oftentimes it's people who have been bullied incessantly and don't have a safe place to go, to where their suicidality is a direct result of people's actions upon them for being trans. Like, it's not other things. It's not them having delusions of who they think they are that they aren't. It is they don't have a safe place to go, and they would rather not be alive than have to deal with that. And that's the risk level we're dealing with here. So if you had a kid sitting in front of you that said, like, this is who I am, I'm happy with who I am, these other people are causing me so much distress that I would rather not be alive, and having this intervention would help me exist in this society where I could be alive. That's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, the only things I really have to add to that are, I did a quick Google search for studies on the average age that gender affirming surgeries are done on in patients in the U.S. And granted, I did not have the time to evaluate the study in its entirety, but the one number that one study gave was the average age is 29. And I think that makes sense when you just think about, for one, insurance is not going to cover most gender affirming care, and gender affirming care is incredibly expensive. So on top of the barriers that minors would have to go through to access a lot of these procedures, you have to consider the financial cost. I mean, unless they have parents who are very wealthy and willing to spend it on that, the kid is probably shit out of luck. But on top of that, when we're looking at the procedures that kids are looking for, those are also relatively low risk that most of the young people are looking for. We're talking about top surgery and things like that, getting a mastectomy or breast implants, where the regret rates that we see are extraordinarily low. So I'm failing to see a really valid reason to stop minors from accessing the age-appropriate medical interventions that, as Ben pointed out, their doctors have agreed upon. I mean, for example, even as an adult, when I got face surgery, I had to have 2 letters from 2 different therapists saying that they approve of me getting the surgery and that it's for gender dysphoria and that I have a documented history of gender dysphoria. Whereas a cis woman who wanted all of the exact same procedures could go to that exact same doctor and get those exact same procedures without any need for medical documentation proving their case.
All right, I just want to say quickly, all of this is extremely fucked up. And the legitimate reason that Doug has for this is just bigotry. And I let this play out, but I love what what Dr. Ben did from the beginning was, when Doug tried to talk about hormones and surgery, to me, he was actually trying to couch the political conversation and people's concerns, particularly cis people's concerns, right? And he was like, yeah, but I think for people, it's primarily surgery and hormones. And then Ben was like, cut that off. You're going to medical school right now. And that shit was brilliant. But the thing that really gets me now these days is just, these are suffering kids. And this is the cruelty of these people. Even this suggesting that people should put off till they're 18, again, I'm not the person on the panel that has this lived experience, but trans people know their whole lives that they're trans, and this is super fucked up for him to want kids to suffer. Go ahead, Bre.
I'm pretty sure from all the interactions I've seen with Doug on this topic, and what Aunt Jur is saying here on my side chat is apt. She says, can we address the fact that the right treat trans teens, control all deleting themselves, as merely a temper tantrum for not getting their way? You're being mean to me, so I'm going to kill myself, is the way that Doug likes to present that, or that it's making them feel bad. That's the problem. There's no truth to psychological damage. That it's all just being whiny and soft.
Yeah, it's incredibly cruel, incredibly cruel. Steph, I don't know if you had anything else. It just bothers me, and this is the motivation when I say things like, "I'm afraid who's not trans." I want trans kids to fucking transition when it's appropriate. Go ahead.
No, I was there. I don't really have anything to say. I'd like Ben and Arden to carry on.
All right, for sure.
I think this is it's like. Yeah.
And even though I paid out of pocket, I still had to prove to the doctor that I was actually trans as an adult. Like, these are hoops that I had to jump through. I had to do lots of work that I didn't love doing in order to pay for the surgery that I got. There are extraordinary barriers in front of children, and like the notion that the majority treatment that kids are getting in the US today is surgery is just detached from reality.
Okay. Yeah, everything you said was very reasonable, especially I understand and realize that it's a very small percentage, but I just want to be clear. Are you both for, in the very rare cases, let's say bottom surgery for minors?
No, bottom surgery for minors does not happen. So take away that argument.
I'm asking if it did happen, would you be for it or against it?
If the evidence suggested that's like as Ben is saying, this is not the world we live in today, but if the evidence suggested that genital surgery at a certain age was developmentally appropriate and led to the best outcomes for those kids, then yes, I would support evidence-based medical care for children, like I do for every other medical thing that a child might face.
And do we have that evidence?
Currently, we don't have that evidence. So currently, okay. I'm currently not in support of that because we don't currently have the evidence. But like Arden is saying, if the evidence came out and was statistically significant that showed that there was a certain number needed to treat and all that stuff, the metrics that we look at were in line to say that this is an appropriate guideline, then yeah, I would be. But we're not there. So I think like maybe even presenting that argument is a bit disingenuous because that's I wonder if you're trying to get us to agree with something that isn't currently like the situation and that we don't have the evidence for.
But I mean, this is really easy. I've said this so many times.
Yeah.
I support evidence-based medical care. Transition care for minors, as it currently stands, the developmentally appropriate stages, is evidence-based. Could the evidence be stronger? Of course. We always want stronger evidence. That's just the nature of science and research. We always want to progress our evidence, progress our diagnostic criteria, progress the treatments that we give people. I support evidence-based medicine. What we're doing for minors right now, or what we were doing before a few states started attacking this care, was evidence-based care. I support that. If it came out that genital surgery for 14-year-olds was the best outcome for them, I would support that because that's evidence-based medical care.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you both is that there is no evidence currently that bottom surgery works for minors.
Yeah, so
we don't have that phrasing is problematic because it's not about whether the surgery works or not. It is whether this surgery is evidence-based to where we can establish a general guideline. And so that's the issue here. And like how we establish guidelines is a bit of a nuanced topic, but like we need to have basically a cost-benefit analysis and say like for certain cases, this is the expected benefit. These are the expected risks. Is it worth the risks to provide this benefit? And is that consistent enough across the board for this population to where we can say this is a general guideline and most people in this circumstance are going to have a similar result? And that's what we're talking about. So it's not really a matter of does it work or would it work? Or that's irrelevant. Is can we make this a guideline?
Right. Okay. So what I'm hearing is you both agree that we don't have the evidence to say that the benefits outweigh the costs for bottom surgery for minors.
Yeah,
for a general guideline.
For genital surgery.
For a general guideline.
But that is not to say that gender-affirming hormone care, that getting potentially top surgery for people 16 and up isn't acceptable. That's not to say that all of the other age-appropriate medical interventions that are established in the guidelines are not supported, because they are. They're very well supported.
But it sounds like on the very serious issues, we're agreed.
Yeah, so I don't. So what are you calling in for then? I saw you in the chat, kind of like pushing back on some of the things.
Steph, who did we do this to? I think William Freeman, right? Where it just got to the point where you're just sick of the games and like, what are you here for? Why are you calling? What do you
The
want?
end game. What's the end game? Right.
It's okay. You know, if the call had ended there, then we wouldn't have seen what was the real wokey doke going on.
Things people were
But
saying.
No,
like
I don't
asking-
push back at all.
You want me to keep going?
Well, this is
Go ahead.
what he's talking about. Oh, so we're in agreement on the big issues, acting like he's innovated those and talked them into agreeing to that. That's not what happened. He came in with a caricature of what gender affirming care for minors looks like, and they corrected him. That's what's happened. Not he presented a case and got them to agree to it. It's so weird.
Yeah, and he's clearly trolling for sound bites, and like we're not in agreement on the bigger issues. Like his bigger issue is still what right wingers and other cis Americans are most politically concerned about, where their issue and other people's issue is clearly going to be on trans people and what's best for them and what's best for these kids. And yeah, it's a weird thing to say. It's just I think he just thinks that that's useful, because I think part of what he wants in his whole clip-based thing is he wants the sound bites for them, but also the sound bites for him are him saying things like, I just called in to find common ground. I just called in to find things we could agree on. And so he likes those little sound bites of, sounds like we're in agreement on the bigger picture, except where you're crazy, basically. Go ahead, Steph.
You know, I wish it were the case that that was actually what's going on here. I really do. I wish that reasonable soundingness were part of, or honestly, what's going on. But it's not. Just isn't. It at least it doesn't feel that way. Because insofar as you're willing to shill for state interference in what's essentially a medical issue, that's where the rubber meets the road for me. It's like, why does Doug want to have a say in how an individual's mental health care, physical health care, etc., and so forth? Why does he want that to be a thing, a matter for debate in political discourse? And it is. I mean, he keeps pushing it as something to be considered. And really, this whole topic, as Ben and Arden said at the end of the show, we do this here. We don't want to do this everywhere in our lives, but it's forced on us. And they're sick of it. I'm sick of it. I am tired. You know, and I admire both of them drawing boundaries around this to say, I just don't have the spoons. I don't have I don't have the time. It's like, this is where I do this. I do this on Thursdays for 2 hours or so to discuss these issues.
I had the same feeling, honestly, listening.
It's the same. You know, it's just you turn on the internet machine, and it's story after story after story, and channel after channel after channel, and creator after creator after creator just having to weigh in on a topic they don't have to worry about in their day-to-day lives. That's the thing that drives us nuts. or drives me nuts. I can't speak for everybody, but it drives me crazy.
I got the feeling even.
And it's
Oh, sorry.
and to be honest, outside of the the discourse, I'm kicking ass on the race course. I'm trying to do I'm trying to make a living as a sailmaker. I don't really fucking have to confront this bullshit, except insofar as I'm confronted with it by state legislatures.
Hey, Steph,
by
do you have any
New
world
York Times
records?
columnists. What?
Do you hold any world records? I bet you do.
No, I don't. No.
No?
I don't hold any world championships. Come close.
No, but you'd be like you'd be the most winning trans sailor or something on the courses that you'd have something like that.
Yeah, well, certainly in the J24 class, I would say that's probably true, and because I've got a longer history in that.
So, let's call Guinness Book. Let's call them up.
Let's get it going.
I mean, I've been to a bunch, but the thing is, within that community, nobody cares.
Yeah.
In fact, they've been supportive. It's like, I started transitioning in 1998. I was a sailor. I actually got better as a sailor once I could sail as myself without hiding shit. I got better, not because of any physical advantage, but because my head got screwed on straighter. And it's not anybody's goddamn business. And most people in my sport don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, good job. Good sailing.
Yeah, I got that feeling today. Like,
it was
it was sort of like what you were saying with Otangelo, where it was like, why would we take this guy's call because he's just a known bigot at this point? But then I realized, like, that's what this show is for. Some of the callers they take are kind of wilding out. And then for us, I was like, this is kind of a thing that happened in our little neck of the woods today. But yeah, it gets, it gets tiring having these conversations, especially because at the end of the day, just like you can see with Doug, they're just bigots, and there's really not much depth to it, and it's better for us to just move on with our lives, except for, like you said, Steph, the issues are so pressing right now because of the legislative attacks, the legal barriers, the participation. So unfortunately, it's become a serious topic for everyday discussion. It feels like, which is what makes it terrible.
On itself. That's the problem. Is the issue? Insofar as an issue, and it really is a non-issue in the field of athletics. It really is. It's really a non-issue. It's crazy that people worry about it, and that the trans people have been allowed to compete in the Olympics, or had been anyway, through 4 quadrenniums from 2004 till 2020, which was postponed, was 2021 in Tokyo. After which, because of the politics, the IOC threw up its hands and said, "Let the sports federations decide." But within that time frame, when we're talking about this, is again, it's going to come up later in this thing, and I'm talking too much, but within that time frame, when trans people were allowed to compete without genital surgery, after the IOC dropped the idea of karyotyping people in order to determine sex categories, because what they were finding was there are people that have complicated karyotypes. They're not necessarily intersex, but they're complicated karyotypes. Not everybody's XX. Not everybody's XY. There are mosaics. There's all sorts of shit biologically. And so the IOC said, well, that's crazy. Let's find another standard. The standard that the IOC settled on, World Athletics settled on in 2004 for that quad was testosterone levels. And even at that, there's overlap between the sexes.
Right, which is
in terms of testosterone levels. But okay, that's fair enough gauge. But in that time, and throughout that time, only one trans person, male or female, man or woman, as assigned at birth, only one qualified for a national team that to go to the Olympics, and that was in 2020.
right. So this is literally a non-issue.
We're talking about 16 years of elite competition, and it hasn't been a fucking problem. And the person who competed in 2021 at Tokyo was Laurel Hubbard, and she did horribly. It's nowhere near the fucking program.
Is that more convenient though? Are boogeyman's better because you can't see him?
Yes, because it's all about fear. It's all about phantasms. It's all about imaginary dreams of domination, and it all starts. It starts at fundamentally. It starts with an assumption that men are always better than women at sports. Period. And that's garbage to begin. That's hot garbage to begin with. There's so many issues tied up in this argumentation. There's issues of misogyny. There's issues of wow, it's icky that people could even consider that their gender does not align with their sex. There's so many issues aligned along here. That it is a very complicated topic that most people haven't had to give a second thought to in their entire lives until Focus on the Family, the Heritage Foundation lost all the other scary issues because most people laughed them out of the. It's like, well, I've got it.
You're still pulling some people in for their climate stuff though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, they've got a mixed bag.
That's fundamentally bullshit. Sorry,
You're fine.
Shut me up for Christ's sake.
Yeah, we're all live. Go ahead, Bre.
Oh no, let's go. Let's see what
all right. Let's do it.
Oh, I ask questions.
Okay, so I heard you be like, I'm getting banned for asking questions. I trust our mods. Our mods are pretty fucking good. So like, I have a hard time believing you were just asking innocent questions that didn't sound loaded or problematic. Like I'm getting the sense that there is more underneath this that you're not getting to that I would rather get to. Well, I appreciate what you're doing. Let's establish the points we agree on and make sure we like care about each other or something. It's very street epistemology of you, but let's like actually get to the meat of what's going on here.
Well, no, I am dead serious with you. My biggest concern is exactly what we're talking about, and it seems we're agreed on it. My second concern is, I guess, with the sports issue. Like you tell me if you agree or not, or where we potentially what we could talk about if you want more drama. But I think that if you were born with the ability to produce sperm, you should be in men's sports, and if you weren't, you should be in women's sports.
Why? Why does
what does sperm have to do with sports?
I would like to know what the gametes you were able to produce at birth has to do with your athletic performance. Please make that connection.
I'm just defining what a man is, I guess, and so I would say that men are far superior than women.
I just want to interject here.
Go for it.
Want to interject here that in the side chat on the stream, I basically said, okay, announcing the next Olympic competition, the circle jerk.
yeah, jizz in a cup, so we know how male you are. It's so weird.
Roll the tape. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I said that. It was like, what does sperm have to? It's like, what are you doing? It's like, well, let's just sit around and see who can come further, faster.
I agree with the question though. What does the gametes that you produce have to do with your athletic performance? Like, has that ever been a correlation?
No, it's really. I just want to add quickly. It's really unscientific. On top of being bigoted, it's
I
thoroughly
honestly
unscientific.
think,
to
Bre,
this way.
that in some guys' minds, yes, it does have to do with your athletic
Yeah.
Fucking idiots. Hey, I thought why did I think I heard
a little bit of a
somebody?
problem with your definition of man because
Is that a gather?
Okay, forget I said that then.
So here, let me tell you what my position is on sports, and it's informed by what the what the IOC is doing. I think that
I
sport
actually
needs
know
to be
your
fair.
position on sports because I just listened to it a few minutes ago from last week's show.
Okay, cool. So, do you want to reiterate it?
And
see if
where
you
we
got it right?
disagree is
okay. Yeah,
where
tell
we-
me
I think-
where we disagree. That's fine.
Yeah, I think where we disagree is like a great metric for sports is track and field because it encompasses both running and strength and all that. And on average, a male is just extremely superior to a female. Can you find
Do you
males
know what
that-
an average is?
A male is just extremely superior to a female.
Extremely, Jay.
Extremely superior. Extremely. Like it's not even dangerous. It's not even safe. It's not even safe.
Exponentially.
It's just wild.
Average is, Doug, can you tell me?
Yes.
What is an average?
An average is the sum of all the metrics divided by the total number.
Yeah.
So
Not surprising.
are we having, when we have people, so when we compare an average, is that representative of the entire population versus, like if I were to pick people out and have them a man versus a woman in sports, are they going to be representative of that average? Is that average going to be played out in sports in general?
Depends what you're talking about, but on average, if you pull an individual
Right, so you're
out
already
of
adding
a
a
random
depends
sample,
there, so it's not consistently the case. And so, like, if I were to give somebody, which, like, I reject
Yes,
the whole
you see
concept
love.
that men by default are, on average, are better than women in sports, because sports are it's a very nebulous and broad topic, because, like, take there's certain
didn't say
sports
sports,
where
I said
women have a
athletics.
more of an advantage.
Hey, Nitty.
What's up?
What's up? What's up? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, maybe.
No, Doug. No, Doug. No, Doug. You did say sports. You did say sports. You didn't mention athletics once.
Yeah, but then he had to switch.
Until you were called out.
Yeah.
Not fucking once. You didn't say the word athlete, athletics, or anything. You didn't. No way. That's like, Doug. Come on. Don't move the fucking goalposts like
He's
that.
an apologist. He's just an apologist. And, like most people, he probably has some depth and some layers or whatever off in his offline personality. But when you get to this point that, like I said, you're the known transphobe, you're the known bigot, you're the one doing classism experiments, you're the one doing the misogyny with Dr. French. Like, this is just the reputation he's cultivated at this point, and I think there's a lot of people still don't realize it, but it's pretty clear to a lot of us.
Doug Pewee Herman, I know you are, but what am I? Jesus Christ, give me a break. I didn't say it. I wasn't talking about sports. I was talking about athletics. You never said the fucking word.
It's crazy. Nitty, did you want to say something before we keep rolling?
I can only imagine what's been said so far, and I think Doug is doing a review of this right now.
Oh yeah, that's
good.
what I heard. Yeah. Maybe he saw us live, and
we were all saying both in the chat. It's Cookies and me. Cookies and hers. Okay, yeah. Well, Doug's gonna stream on this. He is. I said, yeah, of course he is. He told me he was gonna if he got on. The reason he wouldn't call in on the phone, he told me literally. It's in one of the streams that I went through. He told me literally, well, the reason I don't want to call on the phone is I don't want to have anybody have my phone number. That's reason one. The other reason I want to call in on the web is because I want to be able to record it and stream it for myself. It's like, okay, Doug, that means you A, want to be a privileged caller, and B, you want to take the content and put it up on your fucking stream to get garnered views off of Jimmy's hard work, off of Arden's hard work, off of Ben's hard work. You're a fucking parasite.
He is a parasite, but literally the worst kind, like of the worst order.
Yeah, his
because there are
video
certain sports
comments
that were.
Go ahead.
His video comments are like, "Oh, these liberals are so bad. Don't go woke, Doug."
Doug is probably much closer to a liberal than anything I am. I'll tell you that.
Oof. He doesn't know what he is.
Flexibility and agility are more important than strength and muscle mass. There are sports where muscle mass ends up being a hindrance. But
I agree.
like let's say, for example, like if we take someone who was assigned female at birth, we take somebody who even was completely all of their biology aligned with being female, and we gave them like a crap ton of steroids like during puberty. Do you think they would by default be inferior athletically to somebody assigned male?
By default,
if they went through a testosterone-based puberty, why?
Yep, because there's more than just
why?
Hormones that are. Yeah, because it's more than
like
just
what?
hormones.
Give me examples.
I'm not sure if there's a delay.
Give me examples. What causes
lung
what
capacity,
causes the physical superiority?
muscle mass.
What was that? Muscle mass? What causes muscle mass?
No.
Lung capacity. What causes what causes your lung
Herb.
size to be what it is?
What causes the lung size to be what it is? Your genetics.
How do you grow your lungs? What are things that grow your lungs throughout your life? Do young boys and young girls have different lung capacities because of their sex?
Yes.
Do they?
Do you have,
a citation for that?
I haven't. I'm genuinely
No,
asking
not on
because
me.
Okay. Have you
Well,
encountered
hey,
one before?
Dr. Ben, let's find points of agreement, okay?
Okay.
Do you agree?
No, I don't care. I don't give a shit about your points of agreement.
Yes.
I am you're trying to avoid the fact that you're saying some things that are incorrect. So I want you to answer my questions because you've made some claims that need to be backed up. So so you made the claim. So let me repeat your argument back to you. So you said that if we had someone assigned female that went through a testosterone puberty, like even artificially went through a testosterone puberty, that they would be inherently inferior to a cis man who went through a testosterone puberty because of a specific example being lung capacity. And so if sex is the determining factor, not hormones, but other biological sex factors makes that different, then we would expect in childhood, right, to see boys having different lung capacity than girls, correct?
No, there was a bit of miscommunication there.
What's the difference then? Tell me the difference.
If you look at, let's say, 100-meter running times of an 8-year-old,
that's not answering my question. Answer my question about lung capacity. Why is the lung capacity different in boys versus girls? What causes differences in that?
My answer I gave you earlier
there's an answer
was genetics.
here. There's an answer here, and I think you're avoiding the answer here.
Yep.
Because there's something in puberty that happens generally for males versus females that causes differences in size of certain organs. And I think you know
Dr.
what
Ben,
that
you're
is.
right.
And I think you're avoiding it. Right.
No, Dr.
What is
Ben,
that
you're
factor?
right.
Tell
You're
me.
right.
Tell me what
Hormones.
the factor is.
I'll give you what you want. Hormones.
Yes. Good job.
Okay, but
Can I
can we not
can
do
I
the
ask you a question
patronizing
now?
give you what you want thing? Can we just acknowledge that you made a statement that
Well,
was incorrect and then pointed out why it was
bullshit.
incorrect, and now you're admitting that you were incorrect?
I was wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question now?
Go for
Just
it.
like you were when
Are you aware
you said that there was no study
8-year-olds.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
You were wrong, Doug. Just like you were when you asserted on your stream when I came in after you browbeat a young trans person with their mother standing by. and asserted to me that there were no studies saying that gender affirming care reduced the risk of suicidality among trans people. And you had cited that study an hour before, as you said, on your stream.
I mean, that's
And
so
the
blatant.
conclusions of that study were exactly the opposite of what you asserted and told your fucking audience they were. You lied to your audience and asserted that the conclusions of that study, that there was no effect on suicidality among trans people when provided with gender affirming care. The study concluded the exact opposite, which you conceded.
It's fucking lies.
You actually urged me in that conversation to read the conclusions, and I did. I read them to you, and you had to concede that the study said exactly the opposite of what an hour before you had told your audience of how many fucking subbies you have. That study said something absolutely diametrically opposed to what you told them it did. You're a fucking liar.
It's just what grifters do. It's a Rebecca Davis move. Go ahead.
Can we just take a moment here to just admire how freaking brilliant Ben is?
Oh, Ben's great.
Yes, absolutely.
He just, Doug just got owned. That's the irony of bigots, is you call in the people's show to hate on them, and then they just own you. And then you just have to live with that.
Dude just went through fucking medical school. He's a fucking intern.
Yeah, you're not going to pull freaking these word games.
Pull fucking medical facts out of your ass, Doug.
He's gone through psych training and all that. He's not going to be. Anyway, let's play this.
Yeah.
Let's play this.
He's infinitely superior. He just has way too big of an advantage for this to be a fair fight.
Pre-puberty, males, boys, outperform girls on certain sports.
Citation needed.
You talking about prepubescent?
Yeah, that was. He says he makes that assertion.
What?
I
just
need
happened?
a citation, and
Too many
he
people.
doesn't provide one.
Too many people streaming
And
it at once.
unfortunately, this for me, this was the weak point in
explain-
the argumentation between the two.
The factors that contribute to that
I
statement.
don't know.
If I could jump in here,
I don't know.
Yeah, go for it, Artie.
But I do know the data.
If I could jump
I
in
do know
here.
the times.
it may be the case, Doug,
No,
that
you don't.
that young boys do outperform girls on certain measures a certain percentage of the time. I wouldn't object to that, just like I don't object to when we do assessments and we find out there are any differences between groups, but there are a number of factors that get involved, and you can't just assume because of correlation there's a causation there. You can't just assume just because someone's male that is what's causing them to outperform. There's a number of factors going on there, but I agree that the stats do seem to indicate that on a lot of sports, a lot of athletic measures, people who are assigned male do perform better on average than people who are assigned female. But that doesn't say anything about why trans women shouldn't compete in women's sports. You have actually not made the case for that at all, which is what
I'm getting at with my question, like 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds. If it's true that, let's say, they run the 100-meter faster, throw the shot put further, pre-puberty.
Well, my
how do
thought.
we
So here,
explain that?
there's some factors in here that you're not considering though either, because think about society and how society raises boys to be athletic and raises girls not to be, and learning things like muscle memory, having earlier athletic activity, having more consistent athletic activity. Certain things like also are confounding variables here that you can't just say this is purely a sex-based difference. And if you are claiming that it is a sex-based difference, you need to provide evidence that that is the contributing factor, and you have to control for the other variables.
Yeah, and
so
we can say if it's true, yada yada yada. I mean, if it's true that trans women were gifted the charm of weightlifting from Thor, then they probably are going to destroy in weightlifting competitions. But we actually have to make the case that that's true. Like, again, even if we make the case, for one, I know the studies that have evaluated transgender performance specifically trans women before and after hormones, showed that trans women before hormones aren't even the same as cis men in athletic performance. So there's already a difference in those populations and a flaw in assuming that they're the same. But this whole conversation started from you saying you don't think trans women should be in women's sports. And
Right.
I would like to understand why, and I don't really feel like you've made the case, because not all trans women are going to outperform women in women's sports just because
And I gotta just say, this whole thing is just strategic misgendering. They just think they're cute, gang. I'm gonna just call it what it is. They think if I say sports, then I get to call trans girls boys. And then I just get to say, well, boys run faster than girls, so right. And it's literally a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Y'all know what that wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Y'all know what that means, right? Like it's just stupid.
Young Chinese gymnasts would like a word.
Who?
Like let's say they're mostly women, right? Young girls, like they're outperforming their male counterparts in tons of things because their culture says you're going to be amazing at this.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be like
misogyny
racist or something. Like, yeah, it's like their society literally.
No. I thought you were talking about somebody in the chat.
Outperform. No. This idea, like, I'm just saying the opposite is true in a different culture, right?
Absolutely.
Like, because that is cultivated, and you know the little Chinese boys, not to like be overgeneralizing, but would not even come close to doing a single thing that those training programs could probably cultivate.
Humans are very flexible. The other thing that just gets me about this is he won't ever make the right comparison, which is, you know, cis boys and trans boys and cis girls and trans girls, and honestly, I said this quickly too. Just I'm gonna let her get to the point where she talks about it. Actually, it's coming up. Let's roll the tape.
Male at birth. If I don't understand what the objection is to a system that would fairly evaluate individual athletic performance and promote guidelines like the IOC, where
wait.
I don't understand what your objection is to things like the IOC's guidelines that use evidence that testosterone in these certain levels in the blood, volumes in the blood, is what is contributing to athletic performance, and when that's reduced, we see a statistically significant difference in performance in certain domains of sport.
Thanks, man.
And therefore, we can evaluate individual athletes and say, does this athlete have a competitive advantage? No. Then discriminating against them is nothing but discrimination on the basis of them being transgender, and it has nothing to do with fairness in sport or athletic performance if that's the case. Whereas if you actually just follow those guidelines, you can fairly evaluate athleticism and let anyone compete, and it would be fair. What is the objection to a system that fairly evaluates individual athletes and doesn't discriminate against entire groups without justification?
It's the same as the objection you gave 1 week ago, that there is evidence that even after the hormones are taken away or added, that there's still seems...
If you're bringing up my own point, you don't understand my point. There is evidence that in some domains of sport, some trans women who've gone through male puberty might maintain an advantage. Might. But not all of them who go through male puberty do. And not all trans women go through male puberty. So banning the entire group, trans women, because of a small subset within that group, I don't know if you know set theory, but we're going to do a little lesson. Imagine a big circle, trans women. A smaller circle, trans women who have a competitive advantage in, let's say, running, for this example. Banning the entire circle because of the little circle is not discrimination because you want fairness in sport. It's discrimination on the basis of their identity, over which they have no control. And that is, in my opinion, exclusionary, wrong. It separates people from something that's extremely important.
May I ask why you think it's wrong to discriminate that way?
There's actually specific citations from those groups that I listed at the top of the show that talks about how inclusion in sport is statistically correlated with improving in people's well-being, feeling connected to their community, reduction in all of the symptoms that trans people suffer with in our society, like suicidal ideation and depression. So being a part of sports is important for their identity and for their sense of community and belonging. And you want to take it from them because they're trans, not because there's a fair advantage. You say there's a fair advantage, it's because it's a fair advantage, but you haven't actually demonstrated that is why you want to ban all trans women. So please try again, make the case for why you want to ban all trans women, because a small subset may have an advantage in specific situations.
Well, we're agreed in principle, at least partially. Where we disagree is
this is why I hate
on
street
how-
epistemology people. Look, listen, Doug. I want to have a productive conversation with you. I really do. And so far, I think you've been a mostly honest interlocutor on
I've
answering the
barely
questions.
talked.
Yes, because you're saying
This
incorrect
is
things,
where
and I'm not just
the-
going to let you walk
This
around
is where
with
the
that.
wokey doke, the whining starts.
So
you guys are talking like for minutes and minutes, and I can barely say anything.
It's our show.
If you stop saying incorrect things,
I
I
know
would
it's
let
your
you
show.
talk.
You can do what you
I
want.
would, if
but
you
it
stop
doesn't
saying
look good
incorrect
for you
things,
guys
if you stop saying
I
incorrect
can't even
things,
talk.
if you stop saying incorrect things and trying to talk over me, I would let you talk. But instead,
I'm actually
you say
trying
things
to build a bridge
instead.
here, and you guys are just so
Doug,
angry.
listen.
You keep saying.
Wait,
Doug,
please
you
let me
keep
finish.
saying that you're okay.
I'm sorry. I know I talk a lot, and I want to let you talk, Ben. I'm not trying to talk over you, but please. Doug, I appreciate you're trying to do this like street epistemology, like let's find where we connect and find like levels of disagreement and where we can progress forward, okay? But then you're advocating for a position that would ban all trans women, which statistically impacts their well-being. This is a known thing. Because some of them...
can we talk about that?
Because, let me finish my point, please. Because some of them might have a statistic advantage. That doesn't make sense. You need to actually make the case for why all trans women should be banned, because you have failed to do so thus far.
Okay, I'll make a very simple argument.
I want to jump in with my point. The reason why we keep stopping you is because you've been smuggling in points under this veil of just asking questions and just having a conversation and trying to agree so that you look like the good guy and we look like we're bad for interrupting you and all this stuff when you're smuggling in points. Like, for example, like when we were talking about like genital surgery for minors and we said like we're going for guidelines and you had left out the fact that it was a guideline and you tried to frame it as this absolute thing and try to trap us in a particular statement. Like, we see what you're doing with your arguments.
Right, and then you're doing these condescending, like, fine, you're right, I'm wrong, you're so right.
We're not going to let you play that game. You actually have to prove your arguments and not play these games with us.
So, go ahead, make your case. Last chance, and then we're going to move on from this call.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually worth dialoguing.
Cool, bye.
Love it.
All right, Doug's gone. Here's the thing.
Holy shit! Hang on, we gotta pause the tape, gang. That was a highlight right there. That is how you deal with Doug. You just cut his bullshit down, and then when it's over, it's just bye, Felicia. I just gotta see that again. That was fucking great.
Absolutely.
That works on Darth Dawkins too, just so you know.
Cool, bye. Go ahead. What'd you say, Bre?
I said that works on Darth Dawkins too.
Oh. All right, go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, I just, just to put a bow on this, I just want to read from the Fundamental Principles of Olympism, which is the IOC Charter. Principle 4: the practice of sport is a human right. Every individual must have the possibility of practicing sport without discrimination of any kind, and in the Olympic spirit, which requires mutual understanding with a spirit of friendship, solidarity, and fair play. Start from there.
Yep.
I would have throughout all of my process of transitioning and all of this other stuff, I would have been crushed if the people I love in the game I play had left me by the wayside because of who I was. I really would have had a hard time. But they didn't. They lifted me up. And they stood with me. Because they knew that I was just another person who wanted to play. I'm like a little kid in that regard, because everybody who engages in competitive athletics has that little kid within them. They want to win. They want to be good. They want to improve their game. They want to bring it up. It doesn't matter whether they're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter whether their gender identity is it doesn't matter. Just want to play. And in life, as in sports, that's the truth. That's all we want to do is play. We want to have access to everything everybody else does. And just because we're a little different and see life through a different set of lenses doesn't mean we're not real. I mean, you need to understand how disheartening it is as a small child to be told that you're not real. You need to understand how you carry that through your life. I mean, I'm of a certain age. I'm a woman of a certain age, and I had to live with through many eras where any kind of level of understanding about anything to do with these topics was just not there. And probably in my transition, the most profound moment for me was after struggling with all of these issues and finally realizing that I had to confront them, and sitting in a therapist's office, and my therapist asked me, "What is your name?" And at the age of 45, for the first time in my fucking life, I could tell someone what my name was. You don't understand. People don't understand how profound that is. And what people are asking trans children to do today, trans people to do today, is never tell anyone your name, ever. And not to live, and not to be, and not to fulfill the potential that you have as a human being. The practice of sport is a human right. And I know it sounds like it's esoteric, but it is. But sport is a thing that comes as second nature to most people, even if they say they don't care about it, even if they don't play any game. Most people piss, and yet they still don't want us to take a piss where they do. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I know that people don't understand me or people like me, and the confusion and the agony that I went through. And I don't want to celebrate the agony. I think that that's just a side effect of society. It's nothing on me. And the most affirming thing that ever happened was, "Hi, Stephanie. It's really good to meet you." Someone's saying that.
Absolutely.
Meant a lot. And means a lot.
That was very deep stuff.
So when people get into the thing, well, I'm not gonna use pronouns because I think that person is not who that person says they are. It's like, that the hurt in that statement means that you don't see that person as you're only willing to see that person within the framework that you've drawn around abstract principles that are a construct in your own mind, and not as a person. Most people in real life aren't like that. You only see that crap in YouTube videos or, in this sort of thing, that sort of thing. In real life, not so much, which is good. So I guess it's bad that we wind up having our eyes glued to the modern day boob tube.
Or at least that people are so comfortable acting out on it. Thank you so much for sharing, Steph. We really appreciate you. We're here for you. And yeah, I think you said it really well. I think we're almost done here, actually. I think Arden and Ben maybe give this close, and then they'll take their next call. So I guess we might as well just finish at this point, and then we'll wrap up. Appreciate you guys so much for being here.
Yeah.
All right, Doug's gone. Here's the thing. We've had many productive conversations with people who disagree with us on this show. But Doug consistently says, I think all trans women have an advantage over women in sports. And we say, okay, what's your evidence for that? Well, my evidence for that is that cis men are always better than women at sports. And you say, okay, what's your evidence for that? And he goes, well, most of the time they are. Okay, so they're not always better. And therefore, even though trans women don't represent cis women, from your worldview, trans women also aren't always better. But you want to ban them all the time. Yes. Okay, make the case for that, because that doesn't actually make any fucking sense. And then when we correctly challenge you on your incorrect points, you cry and you go, you guys aren't letting me talk. You aren't letting me be incorrect repeatedly on your show. Yes, because it's our fucking show, because I actually care about the truth of what's affecting trans people. If you don't care about the truth, I don't give a fuck what you have to say, Doug. I don't care about looking like a bad guy to you. I don't care about you thinking I'm mean and not productive at dialogue. I'm not here to hold your fucking hand out of bigotry. I'm here to speak the truth about what trans people are and what is okay or not okay to do to us in the society. And I actually want the facts, which you have failed repeatedly to bring. So you can go cry to your own little audience, which is just full of the same shitty anti-trans atheists. I've heard lots about it, even when I was being asked to be on your channel by your producer or something like a year ago. So never gonna fucking happen, you annoying little troglodyte.
I would not be surprised if, like,
on behalf of chimpanzees everywhere, I wish Arden would apologize.
That's
It's not my punchline. That's what I was getting ready to say. I swear to God, I say chimps did nothing wrong.
But yeah, it just wraps that up, man. They handled that so well. I'm so glad y'all are here. I did have a couple observations, and some of it were things people were just saying in the chat that I think are worth talking about. Doug apparently has very little to say about the practice of what's it called when they go? I forgot it. No, snippy to the pee-pees. Oh. It happened to me. What do you call it?
Circumcision?
Circumcision, gang. It's the beer talking. Good job, alcohol and nitty. Sometimes you need to phone a friend. But yeah, no, the circumcision, right? And if he has, like, have you ever heard him call a show and say anything about it? Now think about this. Doug is an actual supposed counter-apologist. He has a whole ass YouTube dedicated to how Christianity is all fucked up and all sorts of, but he's doesn't have any concern about their gender confirming surgical intervention on fucking toddlers. No problem at all. And then another thing that recently came up, and this was just actually something I heard another trans person say in regards to actually what was going on at the Young Turks, which was notice how people only have an issue with physical competitive advantage when it's trans people. Sports are about physical advantages. And there's all sorts of people who are outliers in whatever group they're competing in, and we never, ever complain about it. Only when it's a trans person is that advantage. So to me, again, if we started with the real reframe that we need, which is that if you're cis feminine, you're feminine, meaning you're a girl, you're a woman. If you're trans masculine, you're a trans boy or a trans man. That puts you in the spectrum of who should be competing in that sport. And if you set a record, crack a couple skulls, you know, run faster, jump higher, shoot basketballs better, to me, we just need to deal with it because, again, the bigger principle is that everybody plays. And the thing I do want to touch on, people, because I think it may be a good chance that it comes up in our life as parents, as people in the community, as whatever, is supporting the participation of trans people in sports, especially trans kids, and even thinking about how, to me, that should be part of the social transition, right? Like, we shouldn't say that a person has to be on hormones or has to have a medical intervention for them to say, you know, I'm trying to live as this now. You know, can I play on this gender's volleyball team? To me, yes. And if you need to use the same locker room, come on, this is sports, y'all. You're supposed to sit down as a coach in that locker room and say, this is your new teammate. Now, not only do I expect you to treat them well on the practice field and in this locker room, but I expect that when they're in the cafeteria, when you see them in the hallway, you're going to treat them like a motherfucking teammate. Like, all right, that's it. I'm done. That's my rant.
Well, and I think from what I hear around here and interacting with you guys, it's always strawmanned by conservatives. Like, oh, my son Tommy's going to start calling himself Tina just to get into the girls' locker room and play volleyball. Like, think of the girls.
It's
like,
such nonsense.
Right.
They have to invent scenarios to get mad about.
Right. But even if that was like something that is happening, then you are a shit parent for not getting your kid evaluated somehow. Right? Like, if you are really concerned, right, like about what they're saying and what they think, and people in this community aren't saying, oh yeah, let's just instantly take a minor at their word and let them do whatever the fuck they want, right? Like,
you're right, yeah, but you should deal with the issue, not exclude the group, right? You deal with the kid who's causing the problem, yeah, like any other situation.
Even as an adult, there's so much that goes into
exactly
the gender stuff. Like when I came out, you know, I had to do this much of this for a year before I could move on to this next step, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So
yeah, it's not like this, you know, oh, I pivoted and now I'm going to do this and that and this and that and this and that I wasn't doing before with the opposite, you know, assigned people at birth. You know, it's not even close. All that does is make, you know, the parents of those people scared, the old people scared for their grandchildren, right? That's all that kind of argument does. And it's just a fear tactic that I'm just so sick of hearing from people or seeing in my chat or anybody's chat, right? It's like, they're coming for our kids. What the fuck? You know, they're brainwashing the kids, and the kids will think they can do this and that. It's like, no, stop it.
It's like we forgot the 80s when all the same arguments were like about the gay people and, you know, gay people in the locker rooms and gay people in the public bathrooms. I don't want gay men in the bathroom with my little boy, blah, blah, blah. It's like the same arguments and never bore any fruit.
Don't have your youth pastor in the bathroom with your son. I mean, Jesus Christ. Hey, do you guys want to know a fun fact about Frank Turek?
What?
He had gender affirming care?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had breast reduction when he was in the Navy.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yes, he did.
He grew some boobies and he had a...
That's for your chat who didn't know it.
Oh, man. Yeah, again, the hypocrisy, has no end with these people. But I did think they did an excellent job of handling Doug, right? And to me, I just see him as another apologist at this point, and I think they did a great job of revealing that his entire premise was fallacious. Steph, I want to let you and Bre close this out. I don't know where Bre went, but you know, you have experience and background with this show and with this platform, and you were there for the call. So, you know, what do you think you would want us to take away from that experience?
I would hope that people would take away from the show how brilliant Arden and Ben are as hosts. I think they handled that call incredibly well. As Doug had been angling for a spot, just like, you know, first he wanted, you know, priority caller, take Doug, and it's like, okay, no, dude, you know, just no. Take it. It takes your number, just like at the bakery. You take the number, you wait until your number's called, and then when you get the number called, you get on the show. You get to order your bread, you get to have the thing, and you tell them the whatever at the deli. You tell them how you want your meat sliced. That's fine. But I'm glad that Doug got on, and I'm glad they took the call. I was, you know, was behind the scenes. Please take this guy's call. He's been angling for this for 2 months.
You did him a solid. He'll probably never pay you back.
Well, I don't really care. It's like Doug, whatever. Doug,
so I just want to.
But I hope what people take away is the professionalism with which both Arden and Ben handled that call as hosts, and really did try, and also really didn't let the don't you agree stuff get to the point of saying, so that Doug could walk away and say, see, even these people agree with me, when fundamentally there's a fundamental disagreement here. As regards the one side saying trans people are people, and the other side, aka Doug, basically saying, yeah, they're people, but you know, they don't deserve special rights. That's his stance. And I don't know what special rights this would be an interesting topic of conversation if Doug ever wanted to engage. It's like, what special rights do you think we're asking for other than dignity? And from Doug's philosophical point of view, he would probably answer, and I'm speculating here, but he would probably say, what right do you have to demand dignity?
Yeah,
what right do you have to demand dignity?
I even hope,
because Doug's fundamental position is this: get tough, suck it up. People want to go after you. Okay, why do you care? People, you know, if people want to go after you, you shouldn't care, because you need to get tough. You need to just sort of suck it up and deal with whatever slings and arrows are out there. And I said in one conversation I had with a guy, it's like, well, that makes for kind of a shitty society, because you're asking people to endure a fair amount of pain to give people with a position of privilege the privilege to inflict that pain on you, and you need to prove that you're worthy as a human being by being tough. Right. And I think that's a shitty attitude.
It's just he's just a misanthrope. That's all. That's what this is. It's misanthropy. He's miserable and thinks that and thinks awful about or thinks the worst about everybody around him and thinks that everybody else should be there too because that's the perfect society. But how does a society like that even function?
It doesn't, because a society like that is a society of Übermenschen and Untermenschen. It's just it's fascism. It's a fascist outlook. It's like it's not conservative. It's just basically a conservative libertarian point of view is like, hey, I don't know, I don't care, you do you. But that's not the position that's being taken here. It's like, well, I don't care, you do you this way. Or you don't get to do you at all, and off to the gulag. It's like that's it's
so the transing the kids crap is the oddball here because they don't. That's a mischaracterization of what happens. You don't create a trans person. A trans person just exists, but you can create an environment where a trans person can feel comfortable and accepted, and that's what they're against. They don't want these trans children to feel comfortable. My personal experience, growing up in rural Missouri, there was no way I could have come out when I was a child. There's no way I could. It's hard as fuck for a kid to come out right now in that little town that I grew up in. But that's what gets on my nerves so much. This I don't know if you all been following this stupid Jason Aldean try that in a small town thing. I grew up in that small town. My closet was in a small town. Everybody's like, oh, the people I grew up with, the people that bullied me, going on about how that's bullshit and the small towns are the best and they take care of each other and everybody's family, no matter what color of skin, where nationality. Bullshit. I grew up in that small town. I know different. I know. I've listened to your N-word jokes. I've listened to your misogyny. You spent decades calling me the F slur, and now you're going to say, "Oh no, our small town makes everybody feel welcome." Bullshit! You little small towns, big dead trans children, big dead queer children. That's what your little small towns are making.
Or in my small town, I was almost a dead child of a non-conforming person. I was getting beaten and shamed and ostracized for shit that I had no control over. My parent was non-conforming, and that got projected onto me.
That's crazy.
My student body wanted me out just as much as my parent.
That's crazy. And it's, that's just hatred. There's no other reason for this. I do hope that in a weird way, people like Doug do themselves in. Like, you got what you wanted. You called in Attackist. It's a popular show in the atheist community. And you look like an idiot and you got owned. And you went straight to the Tucker Carlson points. You literally Doug from Pine Creek, called the Transatlantic Call-In Show and said you were concerned about genital surgeries on children and trans women in sports. Like, that's who you are at this point. You call in with the Tucker Carlson talking points, predictably on time every time. Congratulations! I hope people see exactly who you are. I hope you get all the exposure you wanted to get out of that.
All right, for my stupid human trick for the evening, and just to end on a bit of humor is, this is what Sierra Nevada looks like. It's on a green screen. It's like, whoa, this is kind of cool.
Oh, you're because of your filter.
Yeah,
that's fun. That's fun. Look, Bre, Nitty, Lena also was in here earlier. Steph, I can't thank y'all enough for joining me for this. We try to. I guess this was we got into it. We did it. We reviewed it, man. I'm glad you guys were here to do this with me. Definitely wouldn't have wanted to do this by myself. So, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Part of the conversation.
If you haven't subscribed, there are links to Steph, to Bre, to Nitty down in the description. There's also a link to the line. So definitely check that out. I watched the Transatlantic Call-In show. Even when Doug doesn't call, I promise you. Actually, usually the conversations are better because Doug was quite predictable, to be quite honest with you. So,
Look, Takis is a great show. It's always trans people. It's not always Arden and Ben. It's there. We've had some tremendous guests on there. The guest host Alexandra Caraballo,
Katie Montgomery.
Katie Montgomery, of course, was one of the OGs, and the woman whose name escapes me at the moment, who ran the U.S. Trans Survey recently, and a lot of good data coming out of that. A lot of knowledge that is there. If you want to get to know trans people, it's not a bad place to be. And it's not like again, as Ben and Arden said, that's where they concentrate their efforts. It's like that concentrate their efforts in this one place of outreach to people, and they're not shy. They're not shy about engaging people on who have concerns or just ask questions.
Definitely.
They're just people.
Definitely. Definitely subscribe, gang. You won't regret it. And when you go to these places, like the things, subscribe to things, leave the comments at the things. Appreciate y'all.